Good morning, everyone. I am Kamala Rampersad de Silva, Chief Executive Officer of the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our workshop, which is the fourth in our series on the role of the board. These are standalone workshops that focuses on various aspects of the board, including the role of the chairman in part one, the role of non-executive directors in part two, and the role of board committees in part three. Today, we look at overall board effectiveness, and our facilitator is Dr. Chris Pierce from the UK, who does excellent work globally, and we are happy to have him with us today. We are live on LinkedIn this morning. And so I want to also say a very special thank you to our social media support, Anderson, for the excellent job he's doing and for managing today's live stream. Before we get into the workshop, I'd like to share that the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute is a nonprofit membership organization, and we welcome everyone who wishes to join in our purpose of improving corporate governance practices in the Caribbean region. We are pleased to share that our membership reflects persons from Barbados, Belize, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Lucia, the British Virgin Islands, forgive me, St. Martin, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and here in Trinidad and Tobago. We host a range of workshops and panel discussions on evolving issues in governance, as well as our signature event, Governance Week. All of these are held online to easily facilitate persons throughout the Caribbean region. We host one major end-of-year event, which is a fun networking activity that is held face-to-face, and this event will be held in Guyana this year. In fact, we have created a week of activities in Guyana starting November 19th to culminate on Saturday, November 23rd. The first will be, there would be two workshops. The first is on insurance and risk on Tuesday, November 19th, and the second runs for 2 days, Wednesday, November 20th, and Thursday, November 21st, on governance and compliance. Both workshops will be facilitated by Claire Gomez-Miller, and the second workshop will include a simulation from Harvard Business Publishing, which I will help facilitate. On the Friday, we host a panel discussion on effective board papers, geared specifically for our corporate secretaries network. But we do invite everyone who relates to the boardroom to join us for that discussion because it will help all of us. And then after that, we'll have some fun events around a bonfire in Guyana. The week, of course, as I mentioned, culminates in a governance dinner and end-of-year networking activity, and this is on Saturday, November 23rd. And the opening keynote will be our beloved Professor Bob Garrett, CCGI's Global Ambassador. All of these events will be held at Splashman's Resort, which is a beautiful and unique facility built around a man-made lake in Georgetown. Registration is already open. We are offering a special package for room and meals for the weekend and are giving first preference to participants of our previous end-of-year events. Space at Splashman's is extremely limited, so encourage persons to book your spaces now before accommodation is filled up. With respect to our online training, we will again be offering our Financial Stewardship for Non-Finance Directors workshop tomorrow with Howard Dutton. Please make sure that your directors and senior officers who are not already versed in finance to register for this workshop, because the financial statements are the key to understanding strengths and some material weaknesses in your organization. You still have opportunity to register your team. And very importantly, Janita John from South Africa will conduct a 3-day workshop on identifying fraud, red flags in financial statements, and this is for early September. So you want to ensure that you don't miss that session too. Also, do take the opportunity to join us for our bi-monthly meeting of the International Learning Network. This will be held on August 14th with Professor Bob Garrett. We will be releasing details on speakers for this session soon. On Friday, August 13th, we will host a panel discussion on romantic relationships in the workplace. As you may know, This is an evolving cultural issue, as what was considered acceptable a decade ago may not be appropriate today. What are the policies in your organization to treat with this? Since people falling in love with colleagues is a relatively frequent occurrence. So join us for this session with panelists from Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago as we explore this issue. On August 20th and 21st, we have a two-day workshop as we examine emotional intelligence and board behavior with A. Cecile Watson from Jamaica. And on August 22nd, we have a one-day workshop with Dr. Victoria Maloney Brown, where she would look at executive leadership and championing DEI in the boardroom. Ian John will be conducting a workshop on cybersecurity on September 12th, when he will focus on artificial intelligence and deepfakes. And we will provide an online simulation for you to respond to a cyber attack. Later on, we also have workshops specifically for corporate secretaries on their role and function and writing minutes and other corporate documents with Faye Lopez Colimo. So I invite you to visit our website for these and all other events which have been opened for registration. So if you are not yet a member, do consider joining us and actively contribute to the conversation on how we can improve leadership and governance to achieve sustainable outcomes in the region. Persons may join as individual members, or your company may choose to pay for bundle membership, which can cover from 6 to 12 members. As we come to today's session to be led by Dr. Chris Pierce, I'd like to make a few of our usual housekeeping announcements. Please feel free to put on your videos to be able to engage fully with each other, especially in the breakout room sessions. Also, please ensure that your name is correctly captured on your screen. We are in a virtual room together, which allows each of us to engage and access freely with other participants. So we like to ensure that everyone is easily identifiable. We'd also like everyone to keep their microphones on mute throughout the session. If at any time you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand using the virtual icon, the icon at the bottom of your screen. If you need to unmute yourself to respond and ask a question of Dr. Pierce, please make sure to mute your microphone when you are done so as to minimize any disruptive noises. And of course, you are free to make comments or ask questions in the chat feature throughout today's workshop. We'd like to advise everyone that those of you who need CPDs or PDUs as part of your ongoing certification, you may use these sessions to claim your points. For all participants today, you will be issued certificates of participation with the CPD hours, so long as you are present throughout the workshop. Finally, we will put a survey link towards the end of the session. We would appreciate it if you take 2 minutes, please, to give us your feedback. This is important to us for us to plan and ensure that we are meeting your needs. So do take that 2 minutes for us at the end of today. I also want to say a special thank you to our executive assistant at CCGI, Amelia Ragbir. Amelia is providing online support for us today. And I'm going to ask Amelia, we do have a few poll questions which we had prepared beforehand that is going to allow Dr. Pierce to have some understanding of the persons who have joined us here. So Amelia, I'm going to ask you if you can launch that poll now.
Okay, so it's been launched.
Thank you, Amelia. So can I ask persons in the room, and I know it's not a lot of us right now. I think quite a few persons may be joining a bit later, but for those of you who are present, we would appreciate if you can quickly respond to the poll so that we can have just summary of some key data that's going to help Dr. Pierce be able to address what your specific needs may be. So we do have some of the answers coming in. Thank you very much for that. Right, just over half of the participants have already responded. Appreciate that very much. Just a few more to come in. So if you have not yet responded, we are looking forward to getting that feedback from you. So as you can see, our questions are asking, do you serve on a board? And if so, how many boards do you serve on? Also, we want to know whether the board that you serve on is private or public sector or both. And then have you served as a non-executive director as well? And finally, we're asking you to just identify which country you are from so that Dr. Pierce would have that feedback as well. Okay, so let's just give 30 more seconds for any final responses to come in, and then we can end the poll and provide the answers for Dr. Pierce to see. All right, we have 83% participation at the moment, so I think we can accept that. So Amelia, you can end the poll now and show the results. Great. So, Chris, as you look at that result a bit, I would now like to actually introduce you. So as you can see, we do have the majority of our participants, 80%, serve on a board. Several of them serve on 4 or more boards. The majority are private sector, and the majority are also non-executive directors, okay? So now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Chris Pierce, who has served the CCGI for many years, including being our first Director of Education in setting up our corporate governance training program. Dr. Pierce is CEO of Global Governance Services Limited. He works with policymakers, directors, and boards in Europe, Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and the US. He is a published author of many articles and books on corporate governance. Professor Pierce has worked with some of the largest listed companies, banks and financial institutions, stock exchanges, sovereign wealth funds, family businesses, and state-owned enterprises in the world. He was formerly Director of Professional Standards and Professional Development at the Institute of Directors in the UK. His career includes senior management roles in British Airways and the Overseas Development Administration. His academic qualifications include an MBA, an MSc, an MPhil, and a PhD, and he was awarded the 2014 Marcos Burton Quality in Governance Medal in recognition of his personal contribution to the promotion of good governance practice around the world. He is currently a visiting professor of the International Corporate Governance at the University of Lincoln. He's a fellow of the Core Roundtable and a fellow of the Chartered Governance Institute, formerly the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators. His former academic roles include honorary visiting professor at Cass Business School, City University, London, research fellow of Cranfield Business School, and executive fellow of Henley Management College. Dr. Pierce is based in the UK, but he works worldwide. And those of you who had joined us for our very exciting conference last week on governance of small state would recall Professor Garrett speaking about the work that he and Dr. Pierce had done in the very early days in basically setting some ground standards for us around the world for corporate governance. So Dr. Pierce, it is such a pleasure to have you again with us. And I hand over the virtual podium to you as we continue with today's workshop.
Okay, Thank you. Thank you so much, Kamala, for those kind words of introduction. And it's an absolute pleasure to be with the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute. I've been doing a number of sessions this year, but as you say, my experience goes back many, many years. I was in 2014 helping to found this institute. So I'm very pleased, I'm very excited at all of the developments and the activities that are currently taking place. Yours must be one of the many institutes of directors around the world that is doing very important work for professionalizing directors, both in listed companies, in non-listed companies, family businesses, SMEs, public sector, and so on. And I'm very, very pleased with all of the developments that are taking place. Okay, let me put up my screen because I'm going to be using PowerPoints. There we go. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yes.
The situation is that I'm a very sad person in the fact that I like watching board meetings and committee meetings and so on. I get less excited about being in the meeting itself, but I get a huge sense of satisfaction looking at how boards actually operate. And I've been involved in boards for 30, 40 years now. And as Kamala said, I have worked closely with Bob Garrett. I was with Bob a week ago in the Reform Club, talking to him about corporate governance matters. And he mentioned the fact that he was very pleased with what the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute is doing and so on. So I haven't been watching the England-West Indies cricket games. I haven't been watching Olympics. I focus on boards. And so you're going to benefit from my observations, hopefully, concerning what boards actually do. My schedule is that I'm going to be looking at board effectiveness, board efficiency, and I'm going to be looking at the differences between being effective and being efficient, because you can look very busy as a board, but be very ineffective. And I want to look at doing the right things. Are you focusing on the right things? And I'm going to be looking at some of the red flags, some of the areas of dysfunction where boards are not working as effectively as they might be. And I've got until 12:30 to do that session. We'll have a 30-minute break. And then session 2 will look at good practices relating to board reviews and evaluations. I'm probably one of the leaders in terms of doing board evaluations all over the world. And I want to feed back to you the reviews and the evaluations, the sort of patterns that are existing now in terms of what is good, what is bad, what needs developing, and so on. And I'll spend about an hour on that, finishing at around 2. We'll have a coffee break 2 till 2:15, and then 2:15 till 3 o'clock. I'll look at how do we implement any ideas, because it's not just sufficient to have an idea that change needs to be made to the board, but how you're going to do it. It's not just about what you're going to do, it's about the process, it's about the how to improve board effectiveness. And so we'll talk about action planning and implementation and execution of governance changes. So that's the plan. I'm going to keep it fairly interactive as far as I can. And I've got PowerPoint slides, which hopefully have been made available to you in advance. So if you want to follow my PowerPoints and make notes on those, that's fine. You know, I find that the best way in terms of my sessions. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is start off by asking, you're a very experienced group of participants. 80% of you are on boards. Many of you are on more than one board. So I'm just going to ask you, based upon your experience, what are the effective attributes or characteristics of a board? What are the elements that make it effective? So could you put that on your chat? You've got a chat facility probably at the top of the page. If you click on chat, can you identify what you think the elements of success are, or the effective attributes, the characteristics of a good board actually are? So can you, I'll let you 30 seconds or so just to come up with, brainstorm with a few items that you think are important.
Great, and I'm sure that we'd have quite a few persons with good suggestions, because as you say, we do have some very experienced directors with us in today's workshop as well. So I too look forward to getting some of their feedback in terms of what they consider to be effective attributes of the board. As we are there though, may I ask Warren if we can end the live stream at this point?